Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Alia Syuhada Binti Muhamad Atfan. Now I'll be presenting about the corporate governance in rural assignment. And the title for my assignment is the impact of internal and external factors towards the Apple Incorporated USA operational risk. The issue of the study is about the lacking of accountability in the Apple Incorporated USA. This is under the operational risk. And there is mismanagement on the labor, which is falsified working hours, accident, and there is no compensation, and also they recruit underage labor. For the research objective, there are three, which is to identify the impact of operational risk on Apple internal factor, to identify the impact of operational risk on Apple external factor, to identify the impact of operational risk on Apple internal and external factor. While the research question is about what is the impact of operational risk on Apple from internal factor? How can the operational risk impact on Apple external factor? And what are the impact of operational risk towards the internal and external factor? According to Patanaya, Prakash and Mohanty, the effectiveness of the board and executive management in managing and organizing the firm's people, product, system, and services will also affect a better operational risk management. This is why I address that the study issue is about the operational risk, and there are two ratio about operational risk that are used, which is operational ratio equal to operating expenses over net sales, while the operating margin is equal to EBIT over revenue. And the independent variable consists of return on asset, ROE, average collection period, debt to income, and also current ratio, while the external factor consists of inflation rate, interest rate, unemployment rate, exchange rate, and corporate governance index, where the dependent variable is the operational risk, and specifically I use the operating margin as the DV. For the methodology, I have used 5 years data from the financial statement of Apple, and I have used enter method of multiple linear regression analysis to gain the data and analyze it. And there are 3 models correspond to the 3 research objectives, but only few internal and external factor, which is the IV, the independent variables are used. For the model 1, only current ratio and also average collection period are used. For the model 2, it's only inflation rate, while for the model 3 is the current ratio and also interest rate are used on the data analyzed. According to the table, that is the descriptive statistic and also correlation result. For the operating margin, the mean for the 5 years is 27.27%, and the standard deviation or risk at 2.15% only. ROA also shows a mean of 15.61, while the standard deviation is 2.12%. For the ROE, 46.61 mean, and 11.45% of risk. The current ratio shows 1.28 mean for the 5 years, while the standard deviation is 17.60%. And the average collection period stated at 57 days mean of 5 years and 8.7568 of standard deviation, which is quite high. And the debt to income shows a mean of 4.2517, and the standard deviation is also moderately high at 65.40%. And the operational ratio shows a 72.73% of mean and also 2.15 standard deviation. And according to the external factor, the GDP is 2.42%, inflation rate is 1.8%, interest rate is at 1.4%, and the exchange rate 4.21, and the last one is CG index at 76.92, and followed by the standard deviation of the external factor at 53.57, 68.456, and 80.23, and lastly is 18.11, specifically for the GDP, inflation rate, interest rate, and also exchange rate. And the correlation, the most significant one is the inflation rate, which shows a strongly negative correlated to the operating margin at negative 0.889, and the p-value is significant at 0.022, while the most insignificant is the GDP, show the weekly positive correlated to the operating margin at 0.246, while the p-value is 0.345. The ANOVA result shows that all the model 1 to 3 have the p-value which is significant to the study. For the model summary, the most powerful adjusted alpha to explain the operating margin is the Model 3 at 97.9%. For the coefficient analysis, it shows that the most influence IV to the DV is the current ratio at 0.01 p-value. For the recommendation, I would like to quote Mulandi, which explains about the liquidity level influence operational efficiency and therefore profitability of an organization. To overcome the issue, Apple should focus on managing its operational risk efficiently as in line with the liquidity risk too. So they can manage to work on this operational risk, which also can reduce the other risks they will be facing, such as credit risk. For example, if there is ability for the Apple to collect its receivable due to the competent workers on doing their job, the liquidity will be affected, and consequently, they will lead to the firm ability to pay for their debt, which falls under the credit risk. In the study, I would like to conclude that the liquidity risk, credit risk, and market risk does affect the Apple Incorporated USA operational for the year 2015 until 2019. And Apple should focus on maintaining an efficient management as it could reduce or lessen the severity of the risk that the firm will be faced, especially the liquidity risk. And all the risks are correlated to each other, such as the operational risk that could give large impact because of the incompetent management towards the liquidity and credit risk, and not forgotten the market risk too. And lastly, Apple must overcome this issue as they are capable to spend on the risk management efficiency in the future because they are multinational technology company and they are able to do so. Thank you.